Good morning. Are y'all having a good time in Tennessee? We are so happy to have you here. Emmy Lou, you are a national treasure, and I have been a fan for a long time. And isn't it inspiring to see somebody of her stature involved in this kind of work? It's amazing. You know, I really appreciate my close working relationship with Mayor Berry and with our work with all of our Tennessee mayors, but particularly the mayors from what we call the big four cities, which are Memphis, Nashville, Knoxville, and Chattanooga. You know, this is a state with great cities. And as we all know, cities across America are the front line for issues of immigration and diversity. We face the challenges and rewards of bringing together people from many different backgrounds, ethnicities, nationalities, and cultures. Cities don't set national immigration policy, but we are severely affected by their inadequacies. Regardless, throughout our nation's history, cities have been the beacons of opportunity and the economic engines that have attracted newly arrived immigrants and refugees. Apart from Native Americans, I'd say all of us or our ancestors came here from somewhere else, willingly or unwillingly. All our families have arrival stories, whether they're from last week, last decade, or hundreds of years ago. It's important to know that we know and remember our own stories, for it informs our work and opens our heart, and it broadens our understanding of the hopes and the struggles of immigrants and refugees today. We're about to discuss the South as America's new gateway for immigrants. It's interesting for me to note that my own ancestors came as immigrants to the South almost 250 years ago. You know, I'm often asked about my last name, Rogero. It doesn't sound like it's from around here, does it? It's actually my Rogero ancestors came in 1768 from the Spanish island of Minorca in the Mediterranean Sea. They came as indentured servants with their parish priest and 1,400 others on 8 ships, mostly Minorcans, also some Greeks and Italians. And they worked on an indigo plantation in New Smyrna, Florida. They endured malaria and abusive and exploitive conditions before fleeing north to St. Augustine, where they settled and they made their home. So today, 248 years later, the city of St. Augustine still honors those immigrants and their history with an annual Minorcan festival and a statue in the courtyard of the Catholic Cathedral that honors that parish priest, Father Pedro Camps, and all those Minorcan families. Now, on my mother's side, my Italian ancestors, they didn't arrive until 1885. My great-great-grandfather brought his family to Florida to escape the constant border wars that he feared his sons would be forced to fight. They moved from the city life of Ronca in northern Italy, and after being swindled in a real estate deal, they ended up in the rural outskirts of Jacksonville, Florida. My great-grandmother Domitilla was 16 years old when she had to move from the city life she loved in Italy to being a poor country girl in Florida. That's probably why she was always sad in all of our family photos. But it was my Italian grandparents who really feared for their family. They raised 10 kids in Jacksonville during World War II, when Mussolini was in power in Italy and Japanese Americans were being hauled off to internment camps. My grandfather feared that Italian families, including his family, would be rounded up too. He also feared the KKK, which had one of their most powerful chapters in Jacksonville, Florida at that time. The KKK also hated Catholics and immigrants, so my mother and her 9 siblings were taught to walk the long way home to avoid where the KKK was known to meet. So we could go around this room and hear story after story, and I love to hear those stories of Europeans and Asians, Africans, Middle Easterners, Latinos, Catholics, Protestants, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, and Buddhists. The stories are all different, but many of them share a similar foundation: a search for better lives, opportunities, escape from oppression, and also struggles to be accepted and welcomed in their new homes. As was mentioned in the mid-'70s, I was fortunate to work with Cesar Chavez, helping to organize farm workers in California. The immigrant families I met there, Mexicans, older Filipinos, and even Arabic-speaking young men from Yemen, all of these immigrants were similar to my own ancestors, hardworking, dedicated, and often exploited. The nationalities change, but the challenges remain the same. That's why it's more important than ever that we speak up and that we reaffirm our commitment to be open and welcoming, to respect the value and the dignity of all of our residents. We must be unafraid to say what we know to be true, that the diversity of our cities, our states, and our nation is a great strength, not a weakness, that every new wave of immigrants and refugees for the past 250 years has faced intolerance and bigotry from those who came before, that each of those waves of immigrants, documented and undocumented alike, has fueled our growth, enhanced our culture, and enriched our communities. And that every time we have let fear of newcomers drive our politics and our policies, we have made terrible mistakes that have betrayed the spirit and the promise of our founding. And I'm going to repeat that. Every time we have let fear of newcomers drive our politics and our policies, we have made terrible mistakes that have betrayed the spirit and the promise of our founding. But that's why we are here today. When I look around this room, I am so very optimistic that together we can and we will uphold the spirit and promise of these United States of America. So thank you all for being here. I look forward to seeing you throughout the day. And thanks to the National Partnership for New Americans and to Turk for hosting this event. Thank you all so much.